In the vast expanse of the world's oceans, few sights inspire awe and reverence like an aircraft carrier. These are not just ships. They are symbols of national power, floating airfields that project influence across the globe. Today, we embark on a journey through the next generation of these maritime titans, the Gerald R Ford Class carriers. This new class, composed so far of 6 formidable vessels, CVN-78, CVN-79, CVN-80, CVN-81, CVN-82, and CVN-83- represents the U.S. Navy's bold leap into the future of naval warfare. To appreciate where the Navy stands now, we must first understand the legacy from which these new carriers arise. For decades, the venerable Nimitz-class carriers have formed the backbone of U.S. naval power. They have sailed all corners of the globe, supporting everything from humanitarian operations to major combat missions. Yet as times change and technologies advance, the Navy began designing a successor, one that could harness automation, advanced electronics, and innovative materials to maintain American maritime dominance well into the 21st century. Enter the Gerald R Ford Class, meet the fleet, 6 new giants. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce 6 of the most remarkable warships ever conceived. CVN-78, USS Gerald R Ford, CVN-79, USS John F. Kennedy, CVN-80, USS Enterprise, CVN-81, USS Doris Miller, CVN-82, USS William J. Clinton, CVN-83, USS George W. Bush. Each carrier tells its own tale of innovation, cost, schedule, and the ever-shifting landscape of global politics. Together, they form the core of the Navy's future carrier force. A new class emerges, the Gerald R Ford CVN-78. The story begins with the first of class, the USS Gerald R Ford CVN-78. Funded in fiscal year 2008, this revolutionary carrier promises increased sortie rates, electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, EMALS, advanced arresting gear, and a more efficient nuclear power plant. It was commissioned on July 22, 2017, amidst a swirl of anticipation. Yet the road to readiness proved winding and complex. Delayed weapons elevators, reliability concerns with EMALS, and intricate new technologies extended the path toward full operational status. The Ford achieved initial operational capability, IOC, in December 2021, nearly 4 years after commissioning. Her first deployment did not begin until October 2022, over 5 years post-commissioning. Some question the Navy's concurrency approach. Integrating so many new technologies on a single lead ship inevitably brought challenges. Yet the Navy viewed these as investments in a more capable and cost-efficient future. Despite the setbacks, the Gerald R Ford eventually demonstrated that these innovations could indeed revolutionize carrier operations. The Budget Conundrum. Now, building or maintaining these warships is never a casual endeavor. The Navy's proposed fiscal year 2025 budget requests roughly $2.14 billion to continue the Ford-class program. That sum breaks down further. $236 million for CVN-79, $1.19 billion for CVN-80, $721 million for CVN-81. The idea is to keep construction rolling while ensuring each subsequent hull learns from its predecessor's lessons. However, this budget also reveals a dramatic shift: the deferral of CVN-82's procurement by 2 years, from fiscal year 2028 to fiscal year 2030. This decision has become a flashpoint for debate in Congress and among defense analysts who argue about funding priorities, the industrial base, and strategic necessity. CVN-79, John F. Kennedy, refining the process. For CVN-79, named John F. Kennedy, the Navy sought to apply those lessons learned from CVN-78. The Kennedy was procured in fiscal year 2013, aiming for a smoother assembly process that emphasizes modular construction and refined manufacturing techniques. A single misstep during a lead ship build can echo across the entire class. With CVN-79, the Navy hopes to avoid repeating mistakes. Current plans have CVN-79 delivering in July 2025. This revised timeline, the Navy maintains, results in a more capable ship at the point of delivery. Instead of rectifying numerous issues post-commissioning, the Kennedy is being readied with many modifications, such as those needed to support F-35 deployments, right from the start. The Navy states, "We're taking a holistic approach, ensuring that every lesson from the Ford directly informs how we build and outfit the Kennedy. By front-loading certain modifications, we reduce the disruptions and cost growth that can occur if we defer those changes to after commissioning." CVN-80, Enterprise, the storied name returns. One of the most legendary names in naval history is Enterprise. From the World War II era Big E to the first nuclear-powered carrier of the same name, vessels bearing this moniker have always carried an aura of significance. Now that tradition lives on in CVN-80. Though procured in fiscal year 2018, the modern Enterprise has faced sudden schedule slips. In April 2024, the Navy announced workforce and supply chain challenges that would likely delay her delivery by 18 to 26 months. The Navy's current official estimate shifts the ship's completion to September 2029, pushing it 18 months beyond the previous target of March 2028. This delay spotlights an uncomfortable truth. As advanced as these vessels are, they still depend on a steady flow of skilled labor and specialized components. A shortage of qualified welders, supply chain bottlenecks for high-tech systems, or even pandemic-induced disruptions can ripple into multi-year project shifts. For a carrier that is intended to serve over half a century, such delays are significant but not entirely unexpected. CVN-81, Doris Miller, a tribute to heroism. The next ship, CVN-81, carries the name of Doris Miller, a Pearl Harbor hero and the first African-American to be awarded the Navy Cross. Officially recognized either in fiscal year 2019 by congressional action or fiscal year 2020 by Navy documents, the Doris Miller symbolizes both honor and progression. The Navy project's CVN-81 will be delivered in February 2032. CVN-80 and CVN-81 were procured under a single two-ship block buy. By contracting for two ships simultaneously, the Navy secured cost savings and scheduling efficiencies. Supplier networks benefited from knowing demand in advance, while the shipbuilder could streamline construction. This tactic proved critical in stabilizing the industrial base and mitigating some of the cost overruns seen with CVN-78. CVN-82, William J. Clinton, a controversial delay. Now we arrive at a pivotal turning point. CVN-82, tentatively named the William J. Clinton. Under previous projections, it would be procured in fiscal year 2028. However, in the latest budget plan, the Navy wants to defer that procurement to fiscal year 2030, with advanced procurement slated for fiscal year 2027. To some stakeholders, this is prudent. The Navy faces budget constraints, competing demands for new submarines, destroyers, and advanced weapons, and a finite shipbuilding budget top line. They argue that a 2-year delay will free up resources for other pressing priorities. On the other side, critics warn that this delay could trigger workforce disruptions, lose industrial momentum, and ultimately inflate the eventual cost of CVN-82 due to lost learning curve efficiencies. CVN-83, George W. Bush, peering into the 2030s. Further on the horizon lies CVN-83, named George W. Bush, projected to begin procurement in fiscal year 2034. Though this may feel distant, aircraft carrier development is a long game. Each year, design refinements, lessons from earlier ships, and new defense technologies shape the final outcome. By the time CVN-83 hits the water, the global security landscape could have changed dramatically, perhaps validating or contradicting the Navy's emphasis on these massive platforms. Oversight and concerns, faulty welds and industrial integrity. In late September 2024, another issue rattled public confidence. Allegations surfaced of faulty welds on certain newly built Navy ships, including potentially some Ford-class carriers. Lawmakers immediately pressed the Navy for a full assessment, demanding to know if these welding flaws posed any threat to sailor safety or operational readiness. The question on everyone's mind: had critical standards been overlooked in the rush to meet deadlines? The Department of Justice opened an investigation, while Congress sought a briefing to identify both the scope of the problem and the plan for remedying it. The Navy assured them that a thorough inspection program was already underway, aiming to resolve any weld issues before they compromise either safety or the carrier's long service lives. Two-ship buys, echoes of CVN-80 and CVN-81. A major question arises: if two-ship buys for CVN-80 and 81 reduce costs, should the Navy replicate that strategy for CVN-82 and 83? Proponents argue that such an approach keeps the production line hot and stable, supporting skilled labor and saving potentially billions of dollars. They also point to lower unit costs achieved for CVN-80 and CVN-81 as evidence. Critics, however, fear locking in these carriers too early could be strategically risky. Military technology and global threats might shift, making large nuclear carriers less central or in need of major design adjustments, changes that become more complicated once you commit to building two at once. The future carrier force, 11, 12, or more. Legally, the Navy must maintain a minimum force of 11 operational aircraft carriers. Yet the Navy's own 30-year shipbuilding plan includes years where the total drops to 10, sometimes even 9, before climbing back to 11 or 12. There's also the broader 381 ship goal the Navy envisions, which theoretically requires 12 carriers. But that number isn't explicitly endorsed by the current administration. Balancing old carriers decommissioning, midlife refuelings, and new carrier introductions is an intricate dance. Each shift in procurement schedules resonates through the decades, influencing not just force structure, but also deterrence capabilities and the industrial base that makes it all possible. Issues raised in testing and reports, DOT&E and GAO. Underpinning every decision about these carriers are test results and audits from two crucial bodies: the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation, DOT&E, whose annual report scrutinizes the reliability, maintainability, and overall performance of new platforms; the Government Accountability Office, GAO, which publishes annual assessments of major DoD weapons programs and highlights risks, costs, and schedule overruns; EMALS and AAG reliability. While these systems promise more efficient launch and recovery, they have experienced reliability shortfalls, impacting sortie rates. Advanced Weapons Elevators. The Ford's elevator issues delayed full certification, underscoring how even minor mechanical elements can hold back a multi-billion-dollar warship. Dual-band radar versus Enterprise Air Surveillance Radar CVN-78 sports the one-of-a-kind dual-band radar, while subsequent ships transition to EASR. Testing ensures that each radar suite meets the anti-air and surveillance needs of a modern battle group. Cyber survivability. As these carriers adopt digital control systems, they become potential cyber targets. DOT and GAO both stress the importance of thorough cyber hardening. Reports also highlight the live-fire shock trials completed on CVN-78, revealing the ability of the hull and onboard systems to withstand massive underwater blasts. While many results were positive, certain vulnerabilities and recommended improvements emerged, which the Navy is now addressing for future ships. The grand debate: should the Navy pivot to smaller carriers? Amid the swirling discussions on cost and timelines, an even more fundamental debate percolates. Do we continue building these massive nuclear-powered flat tops, or explore smaller, potentially more nimble carriers? Advocates of downsized, perhaps non-nuclear light carriers say they can be cheaper to build, potentially constructed at multiple shipyards, and reduce the operational risk of having so much striking power concentrated in a single hull. Yet many Navy leaders assert that in high-end combat, particularly in a confrontation with a near-peer adversary, the survivability and power projection of a Ford-class carrier is irreplaceable. They argue that although smaller carriers cost less individually, they are less efficient in terms of aircraft capacity and may require more total ships to achieve the same presence, offsetting any initial savings. Navigating the political landscape. In Washington, these carriers become more than just naval assets. They are political symbols. Congress, especially the committees overseeing defense, examine their budgets and schedules line by line. They weigh the strategic necessity of each ship against other defense priorities: advanced submarines, new missile systems, the modernization of existing fleets, and even pay raises for service members. When the Navy proposes a 2-year delay for CVN-82, for instance, it isn't merely a matter of convenience. It's the product of negotiation. Budget constraints, industrial base preservation, and force structure demands all collide here. Some representatives hail from districts where thousands of shipyard workers depend on stable carrier contracts. Others prioritize ballistic missile submarines or new amphibious vessels. Still others question whether the U.S. should invest so heavily in a platform potentially vulnerable to anti-ship missile technology. Living cities at sea beyond. Dollars and strategies, these carriers are floating cities, destined to become home to over 4,000 sailors at a time. Life aboard a Ford-class carrier can be intense, with flight operations around the clock, complicated maintenance chores, constant drills for emergencies, and the everyday routine of meals, berthing, and camaraderie. Design improvements in the Gerald R Ford Class aim to streamline some of these aspects, providing better living quarters, more advanced firefighting systems, and even better IT infrastructure for shipboard communications. However, the advanced machinery and electronics also mean specialized training and an increased reliance on digital troubleshooting. For the sailors, it's a mixture of pride, serving on the Navy's most modern warship, and the responsibility of mastering untested technology at sea. looking to the horizon. So where do we stand with the Ford class today? CVN-78 Gerald R. Ford is actively deployed, continuing to validate its cutting-edge systems. CVN-79 John F. Kennedy is aimed for delivery in 2025, ready to incorporate best practices right from the start. CVN-80 Enterprise faces a delay, but the Navy is intent on mitigating further slips. CVN-81 Doris Miller is set for 2032 delivery, benefiting from a two-ship block buy with CVN-80. CVN-82 William J. Clinton stands at the heart of a pivotal debate over whether to delay procurement or revert to earlier schedules. CVN-83 George W. Bush may cap this line of ships or open the door to even more. A bridge between past and future. From the earliest days of naval aviation, the aircraft carrier has reigned supreme as the ultimate tool for projecting power across the seas. Nimitz-class carriers defined a generation, and now the Gerald R. Ford class paves the way for the next. Each new hull is an engineering marvel, reliant on the labor of thousands, the strategic decisions of policymakers, and the sweat and sacrifice of the sailors who will call it home. The journey is far from over. Questions remain about cost, readiness, advanced threats, and whether the large-deck nuclear carrier will remain the cornerstone of U.S. maritime strategy in the face of new missile technologies, drones, cyber warfare, and shifting global alliances. Yet for now, these 6 carriers, and those that might follow, stand as towering demonstrations of American resolve and ingenuity. They carry with them the legacy of carriers past and the promise of a Navy determined to be ready for whatever the future holds. This is the story of the Gerald R. Ford class, a testament to ambition, resilience, and the unrelenting pursuit of naval excellence. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this information valuable, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Combat Tech. Stay tuned for more in-depth looks at the cutting-edge innovations shaping modern warfare, and get ready to explore the future of military technology right here on Combat Tech.